Today's interview could literally change your life, but not for one of the flashy reasons that you might think. Craig Bell is the owner of the On It Group. He's up in Canada. Here's what's amazing about this guy. He is not a sales and marketing prodigy. He's not even a technology wizard who has access to some new higher level of thinking that you don't have. He did not have a spiritual mountaintop experience or a Hormozy-esque super 10,000x growth journey. Craig is a normal dude who runs an IT business, who made a decision that he was willing to do something about his sales results. And he started putting in atomic habits, incremental growth, step by step. He's going to talk to you about some of those specific things he did and how they made ridiculous results. Let's get into it. Craig Bell from Over the Border. You've joined me. Thanks for being here, man.
Oh, anytime. You know, I love this stuff. It's great talking to you.
Yeah, you're the first MSP that I've actually gotten on this podcast, which is a shame that we haven't had more. We found that a lot of MSPs that are killing it. I'm like, hey, come on this podcast, and they're like, well, are my prospects going to be listening? Because I only want to talk to my prospects. I'm like, okay, never mind. But I reached out to you, and you said, yeah, let's do it. So
yeah, absolutely.
I've been seeing you out and more. Are you doing podcasts? What's your sort of like philosophy on getting out there right now?
Yeah, so I'm definitely doing more. I don't know that I have a specific strategy, but I think to all the folks that I relate to, given that we're in a world of a lot of noise, both like just in the news, but also in the space, and I seem to relate to the folks that have a fairly significant video content in their streams or podcasts, and I don't know about everybody else, but I spend 20 minutes in the car every day, so I like devour stuff. So yeah, I'm doing a lot more stuff. I've been doing some stuff with Taher and the MSP Camp crew and Mike Bakayak. I was at your lead gen thing in Toronto. I think we could all do better by being more visible, but it is an uncomfortable space.
That's actually a good segue into something I want to talk to you about, because you're an MSP. So for anybody who doesn't know you, to tell them who, I'll talk probably about you a little bit in the intro, but who are you and what do you do?
Okay, so I'm Craig Bell. I'm the president of On It. We're a managed services provider that's located in central Ontario, Canada, service clients really all across the southern part of Ontario, and then a few across the country, and been transitioning from break fix to managed services over the last 3 or 4 years, and have had some really good success over the last 18, 24 months, in part to the work we've done together. So that's me in a nutshell. I like whiskey, I like hockey, and there's lots of things I don't like, but those are the two things that I definitely do like.
Yeah, we'll save that. What we'll do is we'll have a different podcast where we drink whiskey and we talk about all the things we don't like. But that one, that'll be a different podcast.
I'm all for like a hot take, but whiskey based.
Yeah, that sounds. I love it. Where we just drink shots of progressively peatier and peatier whiskeys or something absurd. So this is what I want to talk to you about, though. So yeah, you are a client of mine. It's kind of how we met. Well, we met at a conference, and then we worked together now for 7, 8 months, something like that. But you just mentioned something, that you are an MSP. You're not a performer. You're not an actor by trade like me. You're not even a salesperson by trade, like historically.
I did start out cutting my teeth in sales, and then quickly moved out of sales. There were lots of people that were way better than I was at it. So
okay. So you've sold before, and obviously you're an owner, so that means you are in sales. But you're a tech. You're just a Canadian guy who likes whiskey and hockey, and you have made this decision. And maybe there's some correlation causation we should study, because you've made this decision. I'm going to be more visible, and I'm going to talk to more people on camera and on a mic. And fun story, your business is growing considerably. Maybe we have a chicken or egg there, but why do you think so many MSP owners are so hesitant to take the plunge that you're taking and get out there?
That's a great question. I don't know that I have the answer. I probably have the answer about why I didn't do it. And
Yeah.
it for me, I'm not the guy at the party that everybody wants to talk to. So there was quite honestly, there was a bit of fear around just putting myself out there, and realized that you just got to jump in and take the leap and do the things. So that was really why I did that, is just to go, like, growth is uncomfortable, and I was wanting to grow. So that was a big part of me deciding to get more visible.
Was that like was that just a pressure or a pain or a discomfort with your lack of sales results rising to a critical mass, or was there a moment, a fulcrum where you were like, okay, I've got to do this?
That's a good question. I don't know that there was like a specific trigger point where I was like, okay, this is the thing. I think I went to ScaleCon 24. I watched a bunch of folks on stage that were practitioners in the MSP space, and clearly some folks were really polished and have done this, presented many times, and others that hadn't. And I think, again, it kind of goes back to the noise in our space. People need to know who you are, and I don't mean like, hey, we're an MSP and we do the patching and we do all that stuff. I mean, who you are, right? And I think being visible in public kind of helps you with that. I mean, it can hurt you too. People can decide they don't like you.
Right.
But I kind of decided I'm 50. Who cares? If they don't like me, they don't like me. Let's move forward with the ones that do. So.
Right. Yeah, that's the natural trade-off of like being known means being accepted or rejected. And being unknown means nobody has the option to do either. So if your primary goal is, I got to make sure nobody can reject me, then great. You also make sure that nobody can accept you either. So
right.
Yeah, I mean, we met at ScaleCon. Now, I actually love about our channel that it's so homemade. When there's moments that feel like that, where just a normal person is up there, they're kind of nervous, and they're sharing something that's very vulnerable to them because it is really, they're passionate about it. It's actually a very passionate. The people who do IT, they don't do it because it makes you rich and famous. They do it because they really care about it. And that's something that comes with pros and cons as an industry. But I think it's something that's really special about us, is that, again, like, you could work half as hard and make twice as much money in any other industry, or in many other industries. But the people who are working in cyber, working in IT, are because it matters to them a lot. That's how I feel about sales. I'm not in sales just because it's like a get rich quick thing. It's like, this is my life calling, is selling stuff and helping people sell stuff and fixing what people think about selling stuff. I remember at ScaleCon, this guy came up to me at my booth afterwards, and he was like, his quote was, as I was listening to you speak, I thought, wow, that is a confident man. And I was like, is that an insult?
Wondering the same thing. Like, what exactly does that mean?
Right. I'm like, what is that exactly? I'm like, what do you, and I think I probed a little bit, like, what does that mean to you to be confident? And then you realize that as he unpacked it, it was him. He has all of these prejudices against confidence because he has a lack of confidence. So he's like, well, you're maybe like, he thinks that being confident means you're over any of your inhibitions. And so there's usually, when somebody says something like that, they're usually a little bit jealous, or they want the thing that you have. I don't even mean jealous there's probably a better word. I don't even mean that necessarily in a bad way, but like, they
envious, maybe.
Yeah, they're envious. They have this ambition to emulate the thing that they're seeing in you, but they have things that have stopped them from doing it. So then they assume that you have figured out some path over your or that your journey to confidence was the same as their journey to confidence, and that you're farther ahead, which might not necessarily be true. But this is all like something I feel like we should talk about more, which is that managed services is this obscure industry that if you're like 1 degree separated, nobody has any idea that it exists.
Absolutely.
But it's a multi-billion-dollar industry full of people who don't want to be seen or heard.
right? And who actually care. Like so few MSP owners that I meet are in it for the money. I mean, there are always some, but they're really in it to take care of people and fix their problems. And they just happen to be problems in tech. And so I agree with you. The community is great. And you're right, it is obscure. I mean, I've never run the check on Google to see how many people search MSP, but I suspect it's way less than Ford. Like it's not. If you don't know what it is, you don't even know what it is. And I think we as an industry could do better by talking a little bit about the outcomes of what we do, and a little bit less about we do patching and AV and EDR, and here's another triple letter acronym that we do, and really tie it more to business outcomes.
Right. Speaking of, I want to ask you about something that you did in your sales process. You had this one trigger. You were telling me about this one phrase. Do you remember what I'm referring to? A change you made where you changed the name of a tab in your sales process, like a header or something to something else. And I want you to tell that story if you don't mind, because I think it's worth sharing.
For sure. Yeah, I do recall. So I think what we were talking about was really that the MSP space is full of technical folk, right? They're engineers. They're not afraid to jump in and buy the latest, EDR AI based patching tool, and a lot of them are scared of the art and science that is sales. And, they have no issue recognizing that we've got to invest in SEO and advertising, and that a word can make a difference. And I was one of those, I wasn't afraid to jump in and put some effort in, but this one story really kind of tied it together for me. So we use a deal room software to deliver our quotations. And one of the reasons we use it is there's some analytics behind it. And you and I had spent a bunch of time kind of working on language and formatting and all of those kinds of things. And in our deal room, there was this one tab, this one page that really was the synergy of all of the customers' pains and how we solve for those pains. And again, business outcome based, right? So, if they said, everything is on my desk, I can't do anything, I'm doing IT because I got to manage my budget, we would talk about the things in our solution that kind of remove that pain. But we called the tab overview, right? Because it's an overview of their pains. And I kept watching the analytics on the deal room, and that page was getting like 15 seconds average view time. It wasn't right. It was actually, in my opinion, it was the most important tab of the 5 or 6 tabs in that deal room. And so I worked with you, and we renamed that tab. We renamed it Your Problems Solved. And as of today, the average view time on that tab is now 32 minutes. And so we've gone from like 15, 16 seconds. Nothing else has changed other than the name of the tab. The content is exactly the same headers, same footers, everything's identical, except for the name of the tab. And so, that's to me the science part of sales. The art is, what are the words you use, and, do you bold font or don't bold font? But folks, I don't think are spending enough time on the analytics side, either because they don't have them or it's just not something they think that's relevant. But for me, that is massive. I'm spending a lot of my time as we build out our sales proposals to see what the customers are reacting to. Sometimes I'm pretty close right off the start. And this is a great example of where, in my opinion, the key piece of the entire reason to convince somebody that they should talk to us was getting 15 seconds of average view time.
Right. So I can't do that mental math of the multiplied.
I don't know. You've gone from like a quarter of a minute to 32 minutes. The percentages are, somebody here is probably banging their head, but not me. It's lots.
You've got to imagine, or have you seen, do you have conclusive enough data yet to have seen an impact on close rate or sales cycle as a result of that change as well yet?
I have conclusive data on deals that are still in funnel versus deals that have exited funnel. So we've closed some deals regardless of that page, right? So, but what we're finding is that more of our deals are making it to consultation and presentation stages from sort of discovery and first check. So we have more MRR in our hopper right now, both in terms of quantity of deals we're working and dollars, than we've had in a long time. And part of it, I mean, the quotes aren't, they're not the leading edge, right? But we've done the same kind of work on our website and the way we answer the phone and kind of all of those things. So to me, that having the analytics just tells you you're headed in the right direction or not. And I'm giving you obviously like a very distinct change, right? Like that's not, oh, somebody left a tab open. Like that's not how this deal room works.
Yeah.
I also know that we've done some changes that are way more subtle. Like we realize that we're often presenting to C-level folks and generally not technical folks. So they're super busy. And we realize that if we were to talk about, I don't know, MFA as an example, if you bold the first 5 or 6 words in the discussion around what it does, and then give a longer definition in regular font afterwards of what that thing is, you solve both for the really busy CEO who's going, do I care? Do I care? Oh, I care about this one. Let me read the rest. And the operations person that actually cares about all of it. So, so little things like that, again, art, science, whatever you want to call it, it is converting. I mean, I think I shared on a previous podcast with somebody, our MRR since January in dollars is up 66% year over year. We're higher than that now, and I'm going to share my numbers for the fall. But yeah, they're very strong, and it's not all just this, but it is the focus on sales.
Yeah. And it's worth mentioning that you, for example, getting a split testing a title on inside of a deal room on a tab, it's like page 7 in some ways, right? And some folks they're still in such sales survival mode that they're like, I need a deal. I don't have any customers. I don't have any leads. And so they're telling themselves that they're saying like, well, once I have leads, once I have sales, once I have opportunities, then I can start digging into analytics. But what you're finding is that actually by focusing on these things now, it's increased both the quantity and the number of deals and the size of the deals. Am I hearing you right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it is a chicken and egg thing, right? So I can understand being lead starved. What I would say to somebody who was focused there solely is, if you haven't done the work to understand what your customer wants to hear, you're going to be waiting a long time for leads.
Yeah.
A big thing that we've come, and again, every customer, every MSP's got different clients, right? So if you're selling to the CTO, which we are not, your process would be completely different. And if you want to talk about, why your MFA is better than my MFA, that probably is relevant. We deal in an SMB business space. We're dealing with business operators. They fundamentally just want to know what's taken care of. And if you come in and talk about MFA and AV and MDR and all the acronyms, they just tune right out and everybody sounds the same. So I would say spend some time interviewing the customers you have. Why did they buy from you? If you can get customers that didn't buy from you to tell you why they didn't buy from you, which is definitely a harder thing to get. Sure. That's worth its weight in gold. And I mean, you need leads for sure. But if your website doesn't attract leads, if you're not in places where your leads live, if you're not speaking the language that your leads need to hear, they're never going to be leads.
Right.
And to circle back a little bit about being visible, to be quite honest, I'm finding that the video thing is sort of a happy medium. I'm still completely uncomfortable in a chamber event, completely. But here it doesn't bother me at all because I don't know. I can't tell the people that are walking away disgusted or are nodding their heads. And again, there's probably a psychologist somewhere like that could help me with that kind of stuff. But sure. There's definitely some advantage to the impersonal part of this type of thing. People can get a good vibe from you, but there's not the risk associated with in person. I'll get there.
Yeah,
I'm not there yet.
No, I like that. The fact that we're doing this like asynchronous presentation means you have a degree of separation away from how you're being received. Like you're not seeing people scroll past your face going, not interested. You don't have to see it. And only analytics you get are how many people looked at you. So you go, oh, good. 166 people looked at my video for 2 seconds instead of all the people who didn't. Right.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense. I think I want to keep drilling into this because there's like 6 or 7 ways of saying this key thing that needs to be said over and over again, because this is the same conversation I have with every MSP. And the reason I have to keep coming up with new ways of saying it is that nobody wants to hear it. They all want to hear like, no, I don't have a sales problem. I have a lead gen problem. I'll get to the sales problem later. I'm like, you understand, this is one thing, right? So what you have in your hand right now, you've got a small number of variables that you can control. And what you're doing when you're saying, I'll fix my website when I get more leads, I'll standardize my sales process when I get more leads, is you're saying, I'm going to wait for the thing that I have no control over to happen before I do any of the stuff that I can control. So that's not wisdom. That's not prioritization. That's cowardice. What else? I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's a politer word I should use, Craig. How would a Canadian say it? Versus,
I would say it's dismissing your ownership of the problem.
Nice.
And I would 100% agree. I think, I've heard sort of the other side of your comment from the MSP side is, well, I'm not big enough to focus there yet. I would counter that 100 times. The smaller you are, the more in control you are, the more you can taste test. You're not listening to, what a salesperson tells you, which may or may not be valid. And there's lots of great salespeople out there, but they don't always see things the same way a business owner sees things. So, I definitely don't want to slag on salespeople. That's not at all what I'm doing. But I think the perception, like I don't ever want to guess whether my initiative failed because I didn't put the right body on it. If I fail, fine, I'm mad at me. But if somebody else fails, I'm going to question if I had grabbed the ball and tried to run with that play and hand it off at the right time, would we have been more successful? So I think that the right time to set those things is when you're small, because you're going to feel every bump in the road. And you can decide, is the bump big enough that I need to avoid it next time? Do I need to plan for it? And when you get too many people in the trough, it's like the game. What's that old game with the string in the can telephone? By the time it gets to the end, it's not the same message as what went in the can. So,
sure. And frankly, like if you're saying you're too small, then that means if you're too small to like operationalize your rev ops, then that means you are probably not making a ton of money, which means why are you thinking about anything in the universe besides getting more clients? Am I crazy here? But like, if you're saying like, I'm too small to get more clients, like, dude, why are you should delay going to bed by 90 minutes every day so you can read a book or send some emails, do something, try something. But doing nothing, it's doing nothing and waiting for your 3 clients to tell other people how great you are so that you can go get 3 more clients in 5 years.
Yeah. It's
not a plan, right?
No, it's not. And I will say that more MRR opens more doors, right? Like I think even if you relate to personally, if you were able to put 25% more on your income tomorrow, personally, probably changes your life.
Yeah.
But we don't seem to apply that same thing to business all the time. And if you can, not that money solves all problems, because that's absolutely not true, but the decision around, can I hire a feel-good MSP? Can I work with a coach? Can I afford marketing? Like, another couple clients make that decision a lot easier. And I agree with you. Like, it's really easy. I think your chicken and egg analogy, as long as, it goes back a long way, but, let's say you focus on leads. Well, if you don't know what to say when you get the lead, they're probably not going to be a lead very long. So I don't think, there's this whole, marketing versus sales, lead gen versus closing. Like they're the same coin, guys.
Yeah.
Like you need both. And they're complementary. And anybody who says to you, you only need leads or you only need sales, I would caution you need to ask some extra questions, because if you don't know how to close a lead, you're done. If you only know how to sell, but you can never get leads, you're done. So how do you balance that balance beam, I guess?
The way I always say it is, if people are like, if you have to pick sales or marketing, which would you pick? That's like saying, if you had to either live with a heart or lungs, which would you prefer? It doesn't matter. You're going to die if you only have one. You have to have both because, or another, not that we need more than one metaphor here, but like there is no such thing as a one-sided coin.
Right.
Like you can't buy a one-sided coin. So they're 2 sides of the same coin. Yeah, that means you have a coin and you can flip it however you want. But either way, you have to have revenue generation is your business. I think
I'd like to add one last thing too. I think that it's a bit of a cop out waiting on leads.
okay.
Because I don't have to.
Talk more,
I don't have to do
about that.
I don't have to do anything. I can just sit here and wait on leads. I can continue to do the things I like, tweak the RMM, work on the latest AI, provisioning bot. You don't have to change what you're doing to wait on leads.
Mm-hmm.
You do have to probably change what you're doing to work on generating leads and closing sales.
Yeah.
And so, despite me being a bigger guy, this is like going to the gym. You got buying the membership doesn't do it. You got to put in the reps. And I think that, to sit back and say, oh, I'm going to wait for leads. Well, that's like sitting back and saying, well, I'm going to wait till I lose weight. Like if you don't get on the treadmill, if you don't do the things, it's not going to happen. So, so I would say that it's easier to stay motionless and blame the fact that you have no leads than it is to put in the effort to get them and close them. But I will tell you, when you start to get them and close them, they guys get easier and easier and easier because you're putting in the reps.
Yeah, because you have the momentum, right? And an object in motion stays in motion, and it's kind of addicting, isn't it? When you go find business out of thin air.
It is, and I love when you're talking to a client and you can see recognition in what you've said, like you've nailed their problem. I had one this week. It was right on our persona. It was a small business operator, kind of like me. We've got 50 staff here, where everything was on their desk. Vendor management, sales, inventory, payroll, HR, everything. And when I asked about why IT, you could just, because I have to. Well, why do you have to? And then kind of going down that path of, well, is it budget control or is it trust or all those things? And by the end of the conversation, we ended up with, this is exactly what I need. So yeah, I mean, we're going to make some money, but she's going to get 25, 30% of her life back, not having to, search the email filter every morning in case some tender request got blocked, and like all the things that really a small business owner should not be doing unless they're actually running an IT business.
Right. That's interesting to think about it. If you think about it this way, because you just tied it back to not only did you make a sale, but you really changed this woman's life.
It sounds so cliche, but she's going to have 30% of her life back, 25% of her life back to do either things in her business that need to be done that require time, or I don't know, like not miss her kids playing soccer. Like, I mean, and somewhere in the middle probably is what's really going to happen.
Right. But think about this. So this is a huge blanket scapegoat sort of like card that people play when they're like, I'm not passionate about sales or marketing. I don't do that. I just want to help people. But if we pause that and we turn that around, because you figured out how to sell, you helped that lady. If you did not know how to sell your product, that woman would not have gotten that help. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I would just for the sake of everybody listening, I would change it from sell to educate. It's the same thing, two sides of the coin, right? But I think the customer didn't know what an MSP was. She didn't know.
Yeah.
And by the time we'd had the conversation, she's like, this is exactly what I need. So, right. If you really want to help the customer, how do you teach them what you do? Right. And how you can help them, which, I mean, that is sales. Like at the end of the day, that is absolutely sales.
It is. It's right.
But
that's what sales is.
It has this connotation of like, I don't know what it is, but we have this context of, I don't want to do sales that's greasy or whatever it is. I don't think that's what sales is. I think sales is educating people what you do and how you can help. And the ones that need it, and they'll come. And the ones that don't, that's okay. They'll maybe they will someday. If they don't today, that's okay.
Yeah. What difference does it make? Your job was not to hammer people into, hammer square pegs into round holes. Your job is to find round pegs and sort pegs by what shape they are and go, okay, I can't help you. No problem. You know what? Why don't you call so-and-so down the road, go with God. But yeah, to your point, we have to reskin sales because people think that it's icky. But my whole mission in life is to help people realize that there's nothing icky about selling. People, just because people do it poorly doesn't mean it's inherently dishonorable. It's actually a very noble profession, I think. But this is my point: is if you want to fulfill your mission as a business, you have to be able to sell, or your mission will not be fulfilled.
100% agree. Absolutely. Revenue is what drives companies. And we can wish that it didn't.
Right.
But, if you don't have another paycheck, like there's no business.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good the work is and how much you help people. If you don't get remunerated for it, there's no business. And so I think that there's lots of really successful businesses that have grown 100% on referral. But I think there's lots of dissatisfied customers out there looking for another option they don't know exists.
For sure. So we've concluded here that if you want like Simon Sinek says, you're in business to fulfill your mission, and the way you accomplish your mission is by generating revenue, not you're in business to make money. Now I think that's semantics, and most of the time sometimes that's true, sometimes that's not true. But I would agree. I would think that we all at least conceptually agree with that. Yeah, I'm in business to fulfill my mission, and the only way to fulfill my mission is to figure out how to get people to buy it, aka generate revenue, aka sell something to someone. So you've got to be able to sell to fulfill your mission and feel your warm, happy, fuzzy feeling inside. Next, we go to, okay, but sales and marketing don't work, or they haven't worked, or my marketing thing didn't work. This is something I can't keep saying, but I have to. No, sales and marketing works. Your sales and marketing doesn't work. And that's a very important distinction. You can't say marketing doesn't work for my MSP. Marketing doesn't work in my market. You want to say my marketing effort did not succeed.
Yeah, I think I don't know if it was you that said this to me, but somebody said this to me, and it was kind of an epiphany moment for me around that specific topic was, did you marry the first person you ever dated? Well, does that mean dating doesn't work? And so I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, you mean I got to try a bunch of times till I figure it out?
Right.
And so I think there is something to that, to go, just because it didn't work one time, I'm sure we've all done deployments of some software that were garbage the first time. And it doesn't mean it's garbage. It means you probably didn't know what you were doing.
Yeah.
Or it wasn't the right approach. And so, yeah, I would say that sales and marketing absolutely do work. And I would agree with you that if somebody listening isn't working, it might not actually be sales and marketing. It might be your sales and marketing. And I think that example I gave earlier about overview versus your problem solved, like 3 words versus 1 word changed the entire outcome of something.
Right. And that's the next step of I think the story we are telling here is like, you were a tech guy, like you had cut your teeth, you had some sales experience, but you sort of made this decision. At one point you had just said like, okay, I'm no longer happy with where I'm at, where you hit a point where you were willing to try something different. You started getting coaching advice, you started working with some people, and trying new things. You went on this journey of, I'm going to learn how to do sales and marketing. So you're exactly right. Just because you roll out a new software, it didn't work perfectly, you're not just going to stop and then call the client and be like, hey, we did our first deployment and we ran into some errors. So it turns out that software deployment doesn't work. No, you just kept going because you had the competence, the confidence, and the conviction to see it all the way through. You probably just haven't developed that competence, confidence, and conviction to see your sales and marketing efforts through. You gave it one earnest shot. You felt stupid. You felt embarrassed, whatever you felt. So you quit. But Craig, you've just decided, I'm just going to keep feeling stupid, embarrassed, and doing it anyway. And now you're starting to iterate. And now you're getting to these moments where you go, holy shit, I changed 1 word into these 3 other words, and I found this like massive pocket. Does that mean your deal room didn't work before? No, your deal room did work, but you're just finding new and better ways to do it.
I agree 100%. I think we had another example where, we had tried to work with a customer 18 months ago, and it did not go well. The customer basically was like, get out of here. We don't want to work with you. And then we actually just represented to that customer 3 months ago. And halfway through the presentation meeting, reviewing our deal room together, because we like to review it before we just send it off for them to review over their own time. The words that came out of the client's mouth were, "This is exactly what I need." when can we start? And the package was the same. We hadn't, I mean, I think we might have changed from one AV to another AV, but like it wasn't like we added some brand new thing. It really was the work around understanding what we do and understanding in a way that we can then explain it to somebody who doesn't know what we do. Right. And a lot of it was getting away from the tech talk and talking about business outcomes and really understanding who our customers are and who our customers are not. We're saying no to more customers now than we ever have because we know that we're not going to be able to serve them the way they need to be served. Right. We had a great one today, and we're referring it to another MSP because there's a few things it's just not up our alley, and I think that's the other thing that I've heard from people working on sales is, oh, the salespeople are just going to take every single order. Well, maybe once or twice, and then they're going to feel the pain and realize, oh, this wasn't so good. Which is why, again, I think if you're a smaller organization, you get to, I mean, you're probably doing some version of ops or technical too, and you know better than I did likely what a good fit is. So I think learning the language, learning who you really serve and who benefits. I have this philosophy. We need to cry together or smile together. And what I don't like is when one of us is smiling and the other is crying. And so if you're serving your customer correctly, you're avoiding the ones where you're both going to avoiding, if you can at all costs, where both are going to be crying, and certainly doing your darndest to avoid the ones where one wins and one loses. So, and that sounds really easy. It's not so easy. There's a lot of distilling of, ICPs, demographics, all of the things to really understand who benefits the most.
Right.
And that's how you end up with, this is exactly what I need. When can I sign up? When can we get onboarded? That's where we end up.
Right. I've had many, so one of my favorite members who's in the program with you, I got to the third to last slide. He goes, hey, Brian, I'm sold. We can, what do we do next? And I wasn't selling hard. I don't sell hard, I didn't have to, it doesn't mean that my price was too low or I didn't sign some magic juice like that. And it also didn't happen overnight, right? Like that's a result of me iterating constantly. I still change my sales presentation all the time because, and that's why now I get things like I'm writing a book right now. I have a couple of peers are reviewing it. And I opened the book with this intro of there's 4 types of MSPs who are going to read this book. And I made 4 personas. And a colleague of mine read it and he was like, dude, this is eerie. He's like, I had this conversation where this 2 or 3 sentences verbatim from your book, this guy said to me today.
Yeah.
And that's not because I have a magic ball or because I am an MSP. It's because I have spent a lot of time listening and doing something with the information that I hear. This is one of my personal frustrations with the current trend in sales and marketing towards the AI-ification of it all, is that people are just trying to get farther and farther away from their clients. They're trying to build shells to protect them from their prospects rather than building bridges to create relationships and let their prospects come through the sales journey simpler, which is why I think what you're doing in making yourself more visible in spite of how it feels, I think not only is it's first of all, it's already working, but I think it's going to pay dividends for a really long time for you because so many MSPs are just turtling up behind more and more stupid AI stuff and making themselves less human, less relatable, less accessible.
Well, I think it's not genuine. Don't get me wrong. I use AI too. There's tremendous value in AI and it seems to be exponentially growing. But I said it earlier, you got to go to the gym. Buying the machine that makes your muscles flex, what is it, Dr. Hose or whatever?
Yeah.
You're not going to put on 20 pounds of muscle doing that. So you feel like you're doing something, but it's not genuine. And I think, it's an old cliche. People want to buy from those they like, trust, and if you're hiding behind some bot, I'm sure I get hundreds of emails and in-mails and a lot of them, you can tell, like in this digital age, well,
Right.
or they have too many rocket ships or M dashes, or like there's not even basic proofing of what's coming out.
Right.
And I get those things, and it might be the best offer on the planet, but I don't get past the first 2 or 3 sentences, and
No.
I'm done. So I think, is it easy? Yeah, it's easy, but this is not easy. Like I don't, you got to put in the work, and just to think that you're going to buy a membership or buy a course or do 3 sales calls, or it's not easy. You're going to have to iterate. And I agree. You talked about you're constantly changing your sales presentation. I look at those analytics every day. And I probably spend maybe 10 or 15 minutes a day looking at them. But it's amazing what trends you find and what people are relating to. And it's the science part that I think our community, should just love to understand. So yeah, there's definitely something to spending the time learning who your customers are. And I would argue, when you get up to the psychographics of people, like, you're running a business, I'm running a business, people listening to this podcast are probably running a business. I bet your customers are not that different than you.
Right. 100%. If you want to figure out how people buy stuff, look at how you buy stuff. People say this to me all the time, actually. Sometimes I meet with really embittered MSPs. My persona in my book is they're called the skeptic. They wear disappointments like badges of honor. So they actually love when something doesn't work because it reinforces their belief that it's not going to work.
Right.
And they've just made this decision that it's not going to work for them before they even see it or try it. And then sometimes they still try it because they want the dopamine hit of the reinforced belief. Right. But they'll say things to me like, well, you don't understand. Like, MSPs will buy this because MSPs need what you're selling. Like, okay, first of all, if you think managed services is saturated, look at sales coaches. You think I invented this? You think I'm the only guy doing sales coaching? But why do you think there's no one else doing what I'm doing? Because of the way I do it. Because I've made myself a preeminent, non-competitive option that solves your exact problem. Here's the reality, man. If you knew how to just read a Carnegie and a Sandler book and then do everything it said and hold yourself accountable to behavior modification, you wouldn't need me, right? And there's probably 0.3% of the population who that's true. You can just get the information, self source your own accountability, iterate, have perspective, not to get too trapped, and just do it on your own. Like, sure, but if you're not wildly successful,
there's people that can go to the gym without a trainer and be successful too.
Right.
But it's not the average.
Right. And you got to figure out the first thing you can do is I'm just going to buy myself a piece of equipment. That's I'm going to buy a book. I'm going to watch a video, go to a course, hit a conference. It's a one-time thing. And you go, I'm going to buy myself the Gazelle, and now I'm going to buy a Bowflex, and now I'm going to get ripped. Okay. So you never use the Bowflex. So you go, well, you know why I never use it is because it's hard to work out when you're at home and there's distraction. So I got to go somewhere to work out. That's going to be what I need. I'm going to join this monthly gym. So then you pay for the monthly gym, and that's your service. That's your training program. That's we won't say all the names, but there's a lot of programs out there, right? Which are gym memberships. And you say, okay, I paid $500 a month, $800 a month. I have all these videos. I got this whole packet of downloadable things I can mail to people. Now I've got everything under control. And then you never go to the gym. And so finally you realize I've got to get my fat ass in the gym, and I've got to make some young, obnoxious, athletic kid stand over me while I do it. And he's got to whisper sweet nothings of encouragement in my ear while I lift the weight over and over again. He's got to orchestrate the workout for me. That's the personal trainer. That's what Feel Good MSP is, I think. It's the gym membership with the personal trainer built in.
I think you're right, but I think you talked about sales coaching, and I would say there's a lot in your program that isn't directly sales. Like, sure, there's the accountability piece, there's a deal review, but there's a lot of marketing, in your program too. So,
right.
don't dismiss yourself, right? Like there's lots there, but I don't disagree. You definitely hold people to account. You call it fighting for authenticity. I call it calling the bullshit. And the result is the same, is to go, I've seen you in calls, you've done it to me, where I've said something and you're like, whoa, hold on. And so that's definitely the personal trainer part of the program. But there's been a lot of help in refining, cultivating, having a sounding board, about like, here's this new exercise I'm thinking about. Have you ever done this exercise? What are the outcomes been of it? And it's been invaluable to me. And I also think the other folks that are in the calls that, they all have great insight, and I get as much out of the chat usually as I do, the conversations between you and whomever you're speaking to. So I think there's tons of value in, doing the deep dive on who your customers are, what they want, where they're trying to go, and how your business can help them get there. And if you, God forbid, but if you come away with the fact your business can't get them there, well, now it's time to iterate. So you either are working with the wrong customers or you get the wrong package. Nobody that I've seen in our calls is in that space, but there are folks out there that are just stuck, and they need to step back for a second, and in my opinion, and have a look at what's really going on.
Well, that's what's so great about you, and this is a sucker punch into a compliment for you, so buckle up. But what's so great about what you're doing is not that you have, you really don't have, how do I say this in the right way? You really don't have anything that everybody else doesn't have.
Not at all. I would argue there are people that have way more than I do.
Right. We all could, right? Like,
yep.
I think there's this great preacher from the, like, I want to say 60s or 70s, and she was like super famous, and she's kind of controversial, just like all preachers are controversial. But somebody asked her, like, how do you, the question was, I think a reporter or somebody was kind of trying to trap her and be like, why are you so famous or something? And she said, I don't think I was the first person God asked to do this. I think I'm the first one who said yes. And I don't mean to be spiritual. I just think that's a pretty profound perspective. And it tells me, like, for sales, it's like, you don't have to be the most qualified person to do this. You just have to say yes. And it's not about, like, the people who sell successfully know something you don't know, or they have something you don't have. They have changed their relationship with discomfort. They've changed their relationship with not knowing what they're doing in a way that they're iterating, they're open. And so you're doing things now, like, you're like, okay, I have to be in front of people. Accountants have to know I exist. I'm going to go on more video. And I want to pivot in a minute. I want to talk a little bit. I want to talk tactically, because I think that's something I've been wanting to make a podcast episode on anyway. But that's something that's so great about what you're doing, is you're just saying okay, and you're trying things, and then you're reviewing the data. Like, that's one of the amazing things about sales. It's, if you give it a long enough sample size, and you're consistent, just if you have scientific method, like you track, you give it time, you have a control. What's beautiful is, if sales either works or it doesn't. You either make more money or you don't make more money. And so if a process is, like, if you do a process and it makes you more money, it worked. You know what I mean? But I'm loving that about what you're doing. And you're up, I don't know, you're up a lot of MRR this year.
I'm up a lot of MRR this year.
We can cut it. We can cut this question. But do you want to say how much MRR you're up this year?
I'm trending to be up by the year end about 800,000.
MRR or ARR?
MRR.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. Now we'll see. And again, we've got a lot of, like, really big firms that help. So I don't like the percentage of the MRR that certain customers have. Yeah. But actually, I gave you that number wrong. It's not 800,000. It is the annual net will be 800,000 up. So it depends on how you measure, right? So if you go, like, at the end of the year, I'll be running probably 1.4, 1.5 million in annual revenue. But contracted revenue by the month at the end of the month will be more than the annual. Obviously, we're adding customers every month, right?
Sure.
So if I look year over year, I'm up 66%, which is about 70,000 a month in MRR.
Yeah. Boom.
Yeah.
Since January.
Right. And to be quite honest, that's with a reduced number of clients. So I think one of the things that we've done, I don't like the whole fire a client kind of mentality that this industry has. But part of our work made us realize that we're not the right fit for some of the clients that we already had. So we help them move to other MSPs or other IT providers that are better suited for where they're at. And we're able to raise our prices substantially too. I think you asked me what the inflection point was. I can be pretty direct about what the inflection point was. In our break fix model, I couldn't get our hourly rate over $100 an hour. And it infuriated me that people would pay their plumber $250 an hour and they wouldn't pay their IT support company more than $100 an hour. And I struggled with that, battled it for a couple or 3 years, and then finally realized that I had to change to be able to get to that effective rate. I had to change the packaging. I had to change the inclusions. I had to really rip apart the whole thing. And so yeah, it was a lot of work, but I'm very happy with where we're headed, and no small part from the work that you've helped us, get there. So,
well, I'll take that compliment, but I want to make sure I think the credit sits on you, because there's a portion of my members who pay me and then they never show up, and I email them every week, say, where are you? How can we help? Hello. Is this thing on? And they go, oh yeah, I'll get to that. Just like a gym has baked into their business model, they're like, well, we can sell way more memberships than we have treadmills because none of these people are going to show up. And that's not the business I want to be in, obviously. But I also have accepted the fact that you can only lead a horse to water as a coach. And that's kind of my frustration that I have to wrestle with is, when somebody has a specific problem, they articulate it, you articulate it to them, they see themselves in it, they pay you money, they commit, and then they don't follow through. And then they get mad at you that they aren't following through. And you go, do you see the issue here? The reason you're not getting results is the same reason you're not coming to my calls. And if you came to my calls, then you would start to get the results. It can be really frustrating, but I want to talk a couple of just actual tactics, because sometimes somebody might be listening to this going, no, man, that's not it at all. I do want to do the work, but I need to know what tactics, how do I change? How do I iterate? How do I know? So I think we should drill down a little bit on being visible.
Okay.
And what this means. So you serve accountants, right?
It's a big vertical for us. Yep.
We met because I spoke at a conference for MSPs.
Right.
On how to grow your MSP.
Right.
Is there anything stopping an MSP from speaking at an accountant's conference?
Absolutely not.
How to improve the operational maturity of your accounting firm without increasing your cost or something like that? How
to mitigate your risk. Like there's a million talking tracks for sure. I mean, again, they have the same accounting firms they're eerily similar to MSPs. Mm-hmm. They're heavily, technology focused. I mean, one's numbers and one's bits and bytes, but the very similar profiles of people. It's eerily similar, I would say. The average MSP business owner and the average managing partner. And I would argue, no, I'm actually presenting at 2 conferences this fall. Specifically, they're not directly accounting conferences, but they are rooms full of accounting folks. Mm. And that's going to be incredibly uncomfortable for me, because it's not what I do, but it's what I think has to be done. And I think you got to know your stuff too. Like you can't just show up and be the guy saying the words. You've got to have some meat. If you walk in and you don't know what practice management software they're using or those kinds of things, you're setting yourself up for trouble. But you and I have talked about this. Your sales process doesn't need to be limited specifically to MSPs. No. It's at all. But you found a niche that has a need that you're satisfying. You're putting yourself in front of the people that, I would argue the people that went to that particular conference are people that are not necessarily the same ones going to the big events because they want to go to get the write-off to take the trip to Vegas. They're the ones that are going because they want to change something, or they think they need to change something.
Right.
And I think that's what I'm currently struggling with, is like, what is that place for my clients?
Yeah.
And then being visible there for sure.
So being seen, rather than just like, hey, I'm sending my sales rep to the chamber events and I'm going to keep hiding in the server room. Why wouldn't an owner consider, hey, if I want the local community to care about me and to know that I care about them, they should probably know who I am. I think that's a reasonable place to start.
I think it's an absolutely reasonable place to start. and I think like owners think differently. And than any employee, that they have different level of risk, they have different levels of exposure, and I think business owners relate to other business owners, or business operators to other business operators, how you want to say it. And again, not dismissing, I meet with a lot of great salespeople, but I think that if you want to put your toes in the water, you better put your toes in first.
Yeah.
Lead by example, have a good understanding. To send somebody, if you hire somebody with a couple years experience and send them out into the world and say, go figure it out. Well, don't. It's not fair to them, and you're wasting your money, in my opinion. Doesn't mean they're not going to close the odd deal. But at the end of the day, I think if you took some of that money and invested it in process and tested it yourself, and then handed something you could manage, you'd be further ahead for sure.
Right. That's what we're going to do with you. Let me look into my crystal ball. I'm going to tell you something. And this is recorded, so when it comes back, you'll know how much of a warlock I really am. But what's going to happen is we're going to finalize the process that you have now. We're going to get up a certain threshold in MRR where we decide it's worth it to take on some new team members to test it at scale. We hire in twos, I think, for sales, so that you can know for a fact. Like if you hire one at a time, sometimes it's hard to know if it's the rep's fault, your process fault, your management fault, your market's fault. But you hire two people, one of them's crushing, one of them's failing, and they have the same script, you know that the script isn't necessarily the problem, right? So if you can hire in twos, we start levering up and go, okay, we got two people out here making conversations, and we have one person shadowing you as the account exec / sales engineer. I actually do believe all MSPs should be able to get the sales owner, the owner out of the sales function for the majority of the sales. And the owner should be shaking hands, kissing babies, should become a figurehead and managing key relationships, obviously. That's the goal for Feel Good, even though selling is literally my favorite part of my job. But I have an account executive who now is taking my sales assessments, because if I have to sell it, then I actually would probably be a sign that I'm not a very good sales coach. But anyway, that's what we'll do for you. We'll lever up a couple of openers, setting up more meetings. You'll start going to 4, 8, 10 FTAs a week. We'll have another account exec start to bring those on. And then we're going to see, it's not going to be a hockey stick. It's still going to be linear, but the pitch on that growth is going to go up pretty considerably. And now all of a sudden we go, oh, look, we can do this X amount of months. Now we can do it cash positive. We pull out the initial investment. That's the hard part of growing an MSP, is doing it in a cash positive way, because as a long cycle, the cost of acquisition is so high. But that's what we're going to do. And we're going to be looking back, and that's how companies go from 5 million to 20 million in kind of the same amount of work as it took from 1 to 5.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm already sort of headed down that path. A lot of people have asked me, why did I jump into the sales process? And I can't remember if it was somebody I was talking to about, you remember the Kool-Aid commercials when you were a kid where the Kool-Aid jug crashes through the wall? Like, that's the one. Sometimes you got to crash through the wall to prove it can be done. And so I am not anywhere near a good salesperson. So if I can close deals using our process, somebody who's a good salesperson can't come in and tell me that this doesn't work. Where if I'd never proved it myself, I would always question, is it me? Is it the process? Is it the person? Is it the, I think I hate to keep using the analogy. We got to put in the reps, prove it, and then move on. And I got lots to do. I mean, I'm not going to spend my entire life doing this in terms of like running the sales ops of the IT side. but it's been fun. It's been brutal. It's been scary. It's been all of the emotions wrapped up into one. But we've had some really good success this year, and we started with a funnel that had like nothing in it. We're talking to a couple people, and now I got a funnel that's, I think there's 15 customers in the funnel, and the projected MRR is somewhere around 50,000 a month with those 15 clients we're working on. And I would argue our lead engine isn't working yet. Like this is like we're like I've been so focused on, if I'm guilty of anything, it's guilty of working on the sales side, not the lead side. So now I'm going to start to shift back to the lead side.
That's the best part, and this is the last nugget that this is the last grandstand I'm going to take on this, and then I know I should probably let you go, but everybody disagrees with me on this, and I think it's because they're not really hearing what I'm saying. Is everybody says you have to start with lead gen. I'm like, yeah, you do have to start with lead gen. However, what people think lead gen is not what it is, right? It's like, hey, in order for me to get jacked, I have to go deadlift 500 pounds. If you go try and deadlift 500 pounds, you will go to the hospital. So what you need to do first is stretch, build some form, start with a bar. You need to do some running. You need to do some box jumps. There's other things that go into building up your strength enough to deadlift 500 pounds. So yeah, lead gen is a result. Lead gen is people talking to you is a symptom of the things that you have to do.
Right.
And everybody is obsessed with, once I get conversations going, marketing going, then I already know how to close them and blah, blah, blah. That's not true. If you knew what the hell you were doing, you would not have a shortage of conversations. And I'm going to stand by that forever. I'm not saying, hey, just only role play closing calls. That's not what I'm talking about. Building the infrastructure, building the core strength up so that you can then you have to learn how to deadlift first. You have to build the strength first. You have to get the gear first, join the gym first, buy the weights first. There's all these things that has to happen before you can deadlift 500 pounds. But we have not even turned on your automated outbound yet.
First message went today.
Okay, good. But all the results hitherto, these have all been sort of like revenue of a pipeline filling up from you focusing on sales process is what I'm getting at. We're not sending 5,000 emails a day to get all these meetings.
Nope.
And the few times you sent 10 DMs and got 3 demos.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like when I want more leads, I just go out and get them.
Yeah, and as I said to you, I don't think that's scalable. I mean, I just happened to hit the iron and lucked out, which anybody can do. You can go out and catch 25 fish in an hour, or fish all day and get nothing.
Yeah, sure.
I think just to go back to your working out, like if you think being able to sell is closing referrals, that's like thinking you can deadlift 500 pounds when you've got all these bungee straps helping you lift the weight. It's not the same thing. And so, our close ratio is actually lower than what it was before. But it's because we're working on more things. And I'm, we're going to get back to a ratio that's more in line with but we were 100% referral or 95% referral before. And in my opinion, like that's like being set up with the friend of the girl that knows your buddy. Like you kind of already have you really got to make a mistake in that first date to not get a second date. And now we're working on, we're getting opportunities coming in through website and those kinds of things that are really, I would say they're not cold, but they're certainly not, I mean, they've been on the website, so they've Googled something, but they don't know us from 20 other providers in the area.
Right. Craig, is there anything else that we should have covered that we should say to the MSP listening, if they're still hanging on with us, that you think would be beneficial to share?
I think we've kind of touched on it, but definitely put in some realizing sales is a science that's measurable, I think is a big thing. And because we measure everything else, we measure MTTR, we measure, first time entry on tickets. We measure the living heck out of our operational side. But either we don't realize or we don't put the effort in to do the same thing on sales. And sales is a process. The number of outbound calls, the number of outbound emails, the number of meetings, the number of webinars, demos, all those things. It's a measurable science too. So don't forget that. Like it's not as different than what we already do on the ops and technical side. And you'll be happy that you grabbed the ball and ran with it.
Yeah. You're a gentleman and a scholar, Craig. Thanks for sitting with me for an hour. Flew by to me. I think this is going to be really benefit to everybody for listening. And you gained nothing from this other than you got out there, you got another rep for a podcast. Hopefully the next one's full of people who want to buy from you. And yeah, just thanks again.
Anytime, man. I love it. I'm happy to help anybody that needs it.